In a small, sleepy town in the Philippines, a group of teenagers decided to test their courage one stormy night. Rain lashed against the windows as they gathered in an old, creaky house rumored to be haunted. With only a flickering candle for light, they arranged letters and numbers in a circle, forming a makeshift spirit board, and placed an inverted glass at its center. They started the seance nervously, calling upon any spirits present. The glass moved slowly at first, but then it began to slide more decisively. They asked the spirit's name, and the glass spelled out Maria. None of them knew a Maria, but they continued, feeling a mix of fear and excitement. The spirit claimed to be a young woman who had died in that very house many years ago. As the questions grew more personal, the glass started moving erratically, almost violently. Suddenly, the candle blew out, plunging the room into darkness. Panic set in as they fumbled for their flashlights. When they managed to relight the candle, they saw that the glass was now shattered, with fragments spread across the board. A cold breeze swept through the room, and they heard a faint whisper, "Leave now." Terrified, they hurriedly packed up and left the house. Days later, one of the teenagers researched the history of the house and discovered that a woman named Maria had indeed lived there and was murdered under mysterious circumstances. The experience left them with an unshakable belief in the supernatural, and they vowed never to dabble with the spirit world again. Sam and his friends often went night fishing at a remote lake surrounded by dense forest. It was a tranquil spot, known only to a few locals. One moonless night, they set up their gear and settled down for a long, peaceful session. The only sounds were the soft lapping of water against the shore and the occasional rustle of leaves in the wind. As the night wore on, they began to notice an eerie, unnatural silence. No insects, no animals, just an oppressive quiet. Then, they saw a strange light hovering above the water. It was a soft, green glow, moving erratically just above the surface. Thinking it might be some sort of bioluminescent organism, they watched curiously. Without warning, the light started moving towards them, faster and faster. They felt a deep, primal fear as it approached. Sam's dog, usually calm and friendly, started growling and barking at the light. The hairs on the back of their necks stood up, as the temperature seemed to drop suddenly. As the light came closer, they could make out a shadowy figure within it, a human form, floating just above the water. The figure's eyes glowed with the same eerie green light. It stopped a few feet from the shore and seemed to stare directly at them. One of Sam's friends screamed, breaking the spell. They grabbed their gear and fled to their car, the dog bolting ahead of them. As they sped away, they glanced back and saw the light slowly receding back into the middle of the lake. The next day, they returned in daylight but found no trace of the eerie light or the figure. However, the spot where the figure had hovered was eerily devoid of fish and plant life. They never went night fishing at that lake again. Jenny's family had just moved into a large, old house with a backyard pool. The pool was a major selling point, perfect for hot summer days. But from the moment they moved in, Jenny felt uneasy about it. The water always seemed cold, even on the warmest days, and she often felt as though she was being watched when she swam alone. One evening, Jenny decided to take a dip after dinner. The pool was dimly lit, casting long shadows across the yard. As she swam, she noticed a dark shape at the bottom of the pool. At first, she thought it was a shadow, but as she got closer, it started to take on a more defined form. The shape seemed to move, almost like it was writhing. Panic set in, and she swam to the edge, pulling herself out quickly. She grabbed a flashlight and shone it into the water. The shape was gone. Shaking, she convinced herself it was just her imagination and went inside. Over the next few weeks, strange things began happening around the pool. Objects would move on their own, and at night, Jenny would hear splashing sounds even though no one was outside. One night, she woke to the sound of running water. She looked out her window and saw the pool lights flickering on and off, the water churning violently as if someone or something was thrashing about. Terrified, she woke her parents, but by the time they got to the pool, everything was calm. They dismissed her fears as dreams or overactive imagination, but Jenny knew something was wrong. Desperate for answers, she did some research and discovered that the previous owners had a son who drowned in the pool under mysterious circumstances. She contacted a local paranormal investigator who performed a cleansing ritual. Afterward, the strange occurrences ceased, but Jenny never felt comfortable swimming alone again. Mark had always been fascinated by abandoned buildings, so when he heard about the old school on the edge of town, he couldn't resist exploring it. The school had been closed for decades, rumored to be haunted after a tragic fire that claimed the lives of several students and a teacher. One crisp autumn afternoon, Mark and his friend Paul decided to investigate. They brought flashlights and a camera, hoping to capture evidence of the paranormal. The school was in a state of decay, with broken windows and graffiti covering the walls. As they walked through the dark, silent hallways, they felt an oppressive presence, as if the building itself was watching them. They reached the old gymnasium, where the fire had started. The air was colder here, and they could see their breath. As they set up their camera, they heard a faint, distant sound like children laughing. It sent chills down their spines. They followed the sound to the auditorium, where rows of charred seats faced a stage covered in debris. Suddenly, their flashlights flickered, and they saw shadows moving at the edges of the light. They called out, but no one answered. The laughing grew louder, more sinister. The camera picked up orbs of light and faint, ghostly figures that seemed to flit in and out of the shadows. Feeling overwhelmed by the sense of dread, they decided to leave. As they turned to go, the heavy auditorium doors slammed shut with a deafening bang. They rushed to the doors, pulling with all their might, and finally managed to escape. When they reviewed the footage later, they saw clear images of spectral children and the teacher, their faces twisted in sorrow and rage. The experience left them shaken, and Mark never ventured into another abandoned building again. The old school was later demolished, but the locals still claim to hear ghostly laughter on quiet nights.